So, Tom, tell us how long you have been playing music.
Well, 1986.
That was the year.
That was the year.
The year that everything
Pink
changed.
bass,
Pink bass.
pink short scale Fender, not even a Fender, it's probably a copy bass. It might have been a Fender. My friend Kyle McCown needed a bass player, and I picked up a bass and started learning. And tried really hard, just like the Bryan Adams song says. And we played for about a year, and Kyle's dad took me aside and he said, "You know, Tommy, you've been playing for a long time, and you're just not getting any better. Maybe you should try something different." And I was like, oh. And it continued from there. I just couldn't help playing, and that was the 80s, and I was in high school.
Knoxville, Tennessee.
No, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Wow.
Initially Duluth, Minnesota, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, I grew up, and then down to Knoxville for college. And fast forward from my original band, Gray Fox, in high school years, my buddies Kyle and Pete go down to Knoxville. My friend Kyle went down there, and basically I went through a bunch of bands, and then I wanted to start a band called The Used. And everybody knows this other band called The Used, but I was in a band 10 years before them called The Used, and I let them take the name because the band I was in called The Used had already broken up. So this is in like 1992. So it's 2019 now. So that's when I really started writing music on my own in The Used, which we changed the name to The Used to Be. This is confusing. So started that band with Chris Hargrove and John Davis, and actually Kyle McCown, first, he quit. John Davis took over on bass, Brandon Fisher on guitar, Chris Hargrove on bass, John Davis on drums, and Brandon Fisher on guitar, and I was singing. That's how you always start a band, where you start to sing. You couldn't find the singer. Dealing with singers is horrible, including me. So started that band, went for a good while, fast punk rock, melodic. John wanted to start his own band. We got another drummer, and John started a band called Super Drag. And then the two bands coexisted for about a year, and this is getting into 1993, and I joined Super Drag as I was in The Used, and then that band went on to get signed to Elektra Records and have a minor hit with a song called Sucked Out. And we toured the world and elsewhere. So that happened. That was really fun. We put out 2 records on Elektra, and then we were going to put out a third. And in about 1999, I quit the band, and they went on to do an independent career. Got dropped from Elektra, got picked up with Arena Rock, and I was already playing in a band called Flesh Vehicle. So more interesting. So this is all going to be edited out. It's going nowhere. No. Flesh Vehicle, played in that band. The original members were the members of Super Drag. John played bass in that band. He plays bass, drums, guitar, and everything. And then Don Coffey, who's the Super Drag drummer, played drums. And that was the first Flesh Vehicle thing. Came out the same time the Super Drag major label record was coming out on a little cassette. So Elastic Pros, I believe I called that? I can't even remember the name of that. Little cassette back. Does anybody know what cassettes are? So, did that, put out Flesh Vehicle, had a touring with Super Drag. We did in 1996 was when we had our hit, 23 years ago. And we did 260 show dates, We get to 1999, I quit the band, keep going with Flesh Vehicle into the 2000s, put Flesh Vehicle on hold, start a band called Whip with Eric Otto and Mark Pataccia. 2006, 2007, 2008. Super Drag comes back in, and we do a reunion, 3-year reunion shows, which were fantastic. We had loads of people there. She's played Bonnaroo. That was actually, the reunion was bigger than when we had the hit, or it's the same size. We'd have Bonnaroo was 5,000 people. We played the Ryman with Cheap Trick. That was one of my favorite. Thank you, Cheap Trick. One of my favorite times of my life, one of my favorite bands. And we released a record called Industry Giants with little ants on it, and that was our reunion record. And at the same time, I was doing Whip, and we also toured on that. We played, what other big shows? We remember playing a show in Knoxville on Market Square Mall, and there were 8,000 people there. So these big shows, and then I'd go back home and play with Whip in front of 30 people. You know, it was all, you know, it was all the same. It was music, except, you know, there was a lot more people. So played with Whip. Super Drag thing went on. We released Industry Giants, and we're going to play a song today. We're going to play Cheap Poltergeist, a Super Drag number for the deal. And I ended up getting a divorce and moving in with my friend Scott Ballou, who's my good buddy, passed away. His memory be eternal. And we started a band called Rock City Birdhouse. Scott's in the fantastic band called the Shazam, and you're going to see the bass player from the Shazam in a little bit. I don't know how this will be edited. You might see him beforehand. Mick Wilson, and we started a band, Mick and Scott and myself, from the Shazam rhythm section, and that's called Rock City Birdhouse. You know, we did that for a while, and at the same time, you know, Super Drag had been put to rest again, so I got Rock City Birdhouse, 2 tribute bands going on at this time. This is right around 2011, 2012, 2013. So Rock City Birdhouse, Warthog, Ramones tribute, Highway to Hell, AC/DC tribute, and Flesh Vehicle. So I was playing in 4 bands at the same time, all active. And then I got married again, you know, or I started going out before I even was married again to my lovely wife, Lisa, who I love very, very, very much, because I hope she sees this. Basically, I had so many projects, because everybody's confused right now after I've been talking with, what is he talking about, you know? All these bands, and I decided just to put it under my name, and it's called Tom Pappas Collection. And I put out a record in 2012 called 20 Years of the Senator. It was my nickname in my email, senatorpappas@yahoo, and put 20 years from the Used up to Flesh Vehicle, up to Super Drag reunion stuff, where I wrote the songs on those, and Rock City Birdhouse and Whip, and all those on one record. And of course, there's a tompappascollection.bandcamp.com where you can listen to all that stuff and see the. It's kind of like the historical record of what I've been doing for the past. Gosh, I guess if it was 1986, I've been doing this 30 years. So, Lord have mercy.
It's been an amazing career. So when you started bands with guys that you literally were just playing with in college, and then you see that you're touring the world, how did those relationships change?
People get married, people have kids. That's how the relationships change, and people like different things when they get older. When you're in a band, you're so centered, it's like your idol to a certain, in an unhealthy way it's your idol, and in a healthy way it's your catharsis to a certain degree. So if you put all that importance on one thing, you know, people sometimes are like, oh, now my kids are more important, though I still love to play music. How can we balance this out so we're not having, you know, John Lennon, you know, we're syndrome where you're ignoring children or you're ignoring relationships. I mean, if anybody does any kind of music, or, you know, they're a politician or they're doing stuff where they're on the road, relationships are going to suffer. It's like it's a hard thing to do. So the relationships have to adjust. So people, they don't necessarily change, you know, they just, it adjusts. You have kids, you know, you have a job, you don't want to tour, you know, touring, even when you have a bus or you do fly dates, if you're doing lots of them, it'll wear on you. I know lots of folks that have done all that, and they're back at home now, and they're working like a job they never would have wanted to work before, but they like it better because they're not traveling all the time. So
There's balance.
you got to find a balance.
And
So.
you found balance, too, staying in touch with your friends, still
Oh,
playing
yeah.
music with several of the friends that
Oh yeah.
have made you who you are today.
Yeah. Thank you, Jesus. You know, it's great that nobody in the Super Drag band died. I mean, we're all abusive to ourselves, you know, chemically. So, and I still, you know, I'll see John and Brandon and Don, you know, or we'll have a text. I'll get a string of like 30 texts, and they'll be talking about something like, good Lord, what are they doing now? You know, and it's like, oh, you know, that story, you know. So.
But it's great that connection is still
Yeah.
there, and you almost pick up right where you left off.
Exactly where you left off. You pick up exactly where you left off, and I see other bands where they don't talk to each other, and I'm just like thankful to have that. And there's also, you know, Play with Bobby Bear Jr. Every now and again, I'll get a text from him. He's touring with Guided by Voices, and I'll be like, hey, you want to go hang out? I mean, and that's what music is really. You have the catharsis and the enjoyment of playing it where it's taking you out of your present life. And then you have your relationships of hanging with your friends, which is basically what Tom Pappas Collection is now. I've got Ben Proctor, my good friend who's playing drums. It's good to hang with him. And then Mick Wilson from the Shazam. You know, always great to hang out with, you know, my friends and play music with them and just make it an enjoyable experience. And that's what you did when you're 16 and you're in a garage or in somebody's basement, and then you get signed and it ruins everything.
But it didn't ruin you guys. It
No.
really, I think, made you closer. I think you learned to appreciate each other in a bigger way.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, you know, you go through ups and downs, and you know, you have baggage, and that baggage gets sorted out, and you remember good times, and you know, it makes me want to call Dawn up now. It's like, oh man, I miss, you know. Those things do go away, and I'd say that with any relationships with people in your lives, to anybody working in an office or college friends, stay in contact. Don't isolate yourself. You can only perish by yourself if you isolate yourself. It's horrible. I've done it before. Artist types are more susceptible to that, you know, depression, thinking the thoughts in your head are real when a lot of times they aren't, which is hard to discern if you're by yourself. So, anyhow.
Love one another, man.
Love one another, and love God, love your neighbor. Peace out. I'm out. See ya. Boom.